Welcome everybody, my name is Miles. Today I'm going to be putting a jack in, a bicycle light. It's an expensive one. It's heavy. It's pretty good sized battery in there. It's a blade something and something. Hopefully you can read that. So I'll set the camera up overhead so you can follow along. This is where I should have music playing. There we go. Battery. Should come out here. O-ring. It's gonna be hard to get in here with it's gonna be really hard to get in here because I need to get at that angle. So I'm gonna have to desolder this board. That board has a lot of traces, or I mean really thick traces. Darn it. Well, this is gonna suck. Turn my solder gun on. Put some water on the sponge. I gotta turn to 630. Get out my solder sucker. The blue one, I got another blue one underneath here, farther down. Love these blue ones. And actually I ordered another one. These are the best. They only like $6, $7, and I ordered a bunch of extra tips. I was like, those are the best. I could use solder wick here. There's so much solder in there. It'll take a lot of wick. I don't think I'm better off just to suck it up. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to use a cloth so it doesn't move around as much. See if I can suck it up. I was going to put it in a vise. It might be easier. I'll find out. Shaking the solder off my gun. I'm not sure whether I have to add solder. Sometimes, most cases, you have to add solder because it has the new flux in it to make the solder flow easy so you can suck it out, but we'll find out. It's not going to be an easy way to get this off. I need to put it in a vise is what I need to do. I do not have an easy way. And I got, my vise doesn't clamp on here. I'm gonna try something more erratic, because not everybody has a vise. Let me try this. There's my vise. So, if you don't have a vise, use the pliers, just a regular old pliers. Let's start with the one farthest away from me. See how easy it melts. If it doesn't melt easily, I'm gonna add solder to it. It did melt. There's one done. It's melting pretty good because there's so much solder there. Did two at once at the end. I could have done two at once all along there. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I should have done. There's still some on the end here. And it still won't come off. You have to get it hot and move it. Each one that breaks it. There's still always some solder there. You put it back on and just keep moving it. It won't have time. It won't solder itself back on. Just go to each one until it gets free as a bird. And then you can start pulling it off. There ain't much holding it on now. So now I'm gonna pull to one side a little bit while I shake back and forth. There ain't really nothing holding it on. I'm gonna pull towards me, shake back and forth. It is free as a bird. Okay, I just gotta pull now. This one is holding it. And I can see through the holes, which is nice when it goes back on. I'll leave it right on the pliers. Move it out of the way. There's my jack. Put my... Now I get at those pins on the back side. Those are going to be a little tough. I'm going to get out my solder. That melts pretty quick. And every so often when you suck that much solder out, you have to take the gun apart. Push on the inside here. All the stuff will come out. I get the wick out just in case I need it. I will need, I can use my other soldering gun. I think the tip might be, you know, I make really nice thin tips for my other soldering gun. I have like a medium tip on there. I'm gonna try to use this again. This I bought off of eBay, which I really like. Just takes like 10 seconds or 12 seconds to get hot. And this has to be pretty tight, pretty snug on there, so you don't lose any heat through it. It has to have a good connection. Set that there. Then I'm looking for my solder. That's low temperature solder. This is it right here. But I got scraps in here. And look at that, I just picked it up and broke in half. It just breaks so easy. That's kind of crazy. Now I have to add flux to it just to help the solder flow. This is more of right now for cleaning my tip on my gun and putting it back on. I'll need that solder to put it back on. I'll clean my tip again. I just wiped it off. I'm gonna work on getting my tip up here. I can see there's solder for the case here. There's solder on each side of the case. Nothing goes through the other side of the board. And there's solder on the case here, 2 spots here. There's 2 spots on that side for the solder. Then of course you got your 5 pins in back. I'm gonna do the sides first. I'm gonna put the solder on there. And I'm gonna blob it on. It's just a big blob, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a second. A nice big blob on either side. Now what I'll do is I'll break off a piece and lay it on the back. I got this. Break it off enough. I'll lay it across the back here. It's just laying in there. That's all. I'm gonna hit the gun here. And I forgot to put my flux on. This just runs out of here like water. Let's see how easy it comes off. Do the sides. And you always do the pins last. That's off. And what I'll do is I'll just shake the rest off. It not only shakes off, but you can scrape it off right now. You can also use a solder wick. Solder likes to stick to the end of the gun. So once you shake it off, clean it, most of it will come off. But you want to look nice and shiny and clean. Clean my tip here. Always cleaning my tip. I'm going to use a wick. I don't know why I got all kinds of these, but I only see thick ones here. I like the ones that this is, I don't know, 3/16. I like the ones that are 1/8 and a 16th. I should have had those ready. I think I got them out in the garage. You don't want to do too much on these pads, get them too hot, because the pads will come up. This is a flashlight, so it's not a smart USB. So it's probably only going to use the outside pins. So I'm just scraping all the excess off. Want it to look pretty good. I'm going to wire brush it. They look pretty corroded. I'm not sure you can see this, but I'll try. They look pretty corroded. I've been scraping it with my fingernail. It's definitely been outside. So you probably, that rubber piece, there should be a rubber piece here, you would think, for a cover, so it wouldn't get exposed to the elements, because that's right in front where all the elements are. That's probably why this is looking so bad. It looks like it's been outside forever. It's gonna make it a little harder for solder to stick, but it's about clean as you can get. I'm gonna take my Bobkin, and I'm going to scrape between each one. Gives me a little more time to inspect. Make sure nothing's shorting out against each other. I mean, this thing is just pinpoint small. It's great for taking out slivers. And it's still just fits between the traces, so they're that close to each other. And I will scrape again. And it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like one of the outside pins, the trace also goes right against ground. So one side is ground, the other side is positive. All the other 3 traces in the middle are not being used. So it's just the 5 volts. Now what I'll do is I'll find the jack that I need. The jacks have to be exactly. I think that this jack probably worked. You get lucky the first one I grabbed? Yeah, right. Yeah, this is a better match. Here it is. Okay, I got lucky the second jack. This would almost work, except the pins are down. I thought I could just bend them out. which I probably thinking I could. It's not that thick of metal. That's weird. I got all kinds of jacks, and the second one I pull out is the right one. I'm hoping this will be the hardest part to get it out of its case. A guy can dream, can't he? There it is. Make sure I don't bend those pins. I'm going to take these pins. It's going to look. It's going to be hard to center because this thing just slides all over the place. I might be smart in putting a dab of 5-minute epoxy on there to get it to hold in the right spot. We'll see. But the first thing I'm going to do, like any 2 pieces of wire, each side has to be tinted. So if I'm going to do a wire, and I was going to put these together, this is for guitars, I would put solder on both sides of the wire. I clean my gun. Might be ready for a tip. This thing should not be. I put solder on each side of the wire. Once you do that, wire, you'll be able to solder the wire together. If you don't tint each side, just like I did, put solder on both sides. You cannot get that apart. You'll probably break the wire first. If you didn't tint both sides, you wouldn't be able to solder it, or it'd be a really bad joint. On a guitar, you probably hear noise. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can just set this on there, but first I'm going to tint. These connectors means they're so close together, you have to brush them this way. And you can't have hardly any solder on your gun, because then all you're gonna do is just solder them together. And you'll see the color change. Right now they look gold. And the gold's going away. They'll look like, so I have just a little bit of solder on it. That's all I need. That's it. They're not gold anymore. Clean my tip. I'm using thicker solder. I got tons of thin solder laying all over the place, but this thicker solder, there's a hole in the middle. That's where the flux is, so there's a lot more flux. So my goal is just to set it on there without gluing it. And I'm going to carry solder over, which you don't ever want to do unless you have to. And what I'm trying to say is I have to. Clean my tip. Go. That's looking really good. Now I'll solder it like normal. I I guess I'd known I needed to use more flux because this board is just so corroded. That looks nice. Get the other side here. You're better off to put the soldering gun on, take it off, solder it on, so you don't leave it on so long. I'm trying not to get this case hot, because if you look inside, there's nothing but, it's hard plastic, but it still will degrade because of the heat. Get my flux. Yep, let's stand down all the way. That was my main goal. I'm shaking a little bit. Now I'm going to redo those ones that I first did, and then I'll get the back pins and we should be done. Just got to touch those. They actually look pretty good. And those look really good. Okay. Clean off my tip. Make sure it's nice and shiny with lots of solder on it. This is the point where I shut my gun off right now. I just shut my gun off and I'm going to build this up. And make sure I have a giant blob on here. Try not to breathe the smoke in. I'm blowing out when I think about it. So you put your gun away with a big blob on it. You want a nice tip, nice and shiny. And just put it away. Cool. Now I get to use my new gun I bought off of eBay. I should be able to just, my main goal is to touch the outside ones. Those were the ones that are the power, the center ones aren't even being used. I'm still gonna glue the center ones down just in case for they don't short out against each other. So I'm gonna do the center one first. I'll do each side. Then I'm gonna do the end ones. And the end ones I'm gonna hopefully get in there because there's a little more room that I can put the gun along the side. And when I swipe this way, so when I put the gun right up on top, I'll pull it off. Because if you pull it off sideways, sometimes a little bit of solder will create a bridge. This gun, same thing. Need to clean it. And if you don't have a sponge, just take a cloth. All it needs is a cloth and water. That's all you need. I'm holding the button. We'll see how long this takes. It took about 10-12 seconds before. Come on. There we go. I have to use my other glasses for this. And just because I waited, didn't do it right away, I have to clean my tip again. Everything's gonna evolve around how clean your tip is. See how shaky I am today. Sometimes I'm shaky, sometimes I'm not. I haven't had any pop or anything, but center one is done. One side is done. Gotta do that one again. I should have my light on too. Don't think you can have enough light. I don't know if that's gonna be a glare for you, but I have to have my light on. Come on now. I do that third one again. I do the ends now. That looks good, but I'm gonna try to put much as I can on the ends. Those are the main ones. That looks good. I like that. This thing must time out because the light goes off. The light was off. You push it on, you can see a light. The light was off. I'm doing the other side. A little bit more. Okay. I like it. There's small blobs on the two outside ones. One thing I wish I had was something to put this on. Usually I'll put it on so it doesn't touch anything. Now I'm going to take my bobkin and I'm going to scrape between each one. I don't think it matters. And I'm not only scraping between each one, I'm going to grab each one and see if I can move them. Especially the end ones. I don't want them to move. That way I know I have a good solder joint. So now I'm going to push on the end ones. I can just visually see how strong they are. I mean, how good they are. The other ones I can't break free. And I scrape between each one. I can feel something though. I'm gonna keep scraping between so I don't feel anything. I just want to be super smooth. That should be it. Looks good. Very good. I'm gonna hit this side one more time. The side I gotta hit is right here. I want to get more on the pad. And if your joints are not shiny, you didn't have the correct heat. So I gotta turn on my, oh, I'll use this, I can use this, my micro gun. I'm not gonna carry my solder this time. But I'm gonna clean my tip. See, it's not designed. It's not designed for doing areas where it takes more wattage. It actually made it worse. This is great for the pins, but that's about it. I could not get that big of a chunk of a solder to melt. My other gun is up to 500 already. It's set at 630. That was that. Put some on here, shut it off. Inspect it one more time and I'll put it together. Looking good. You can clean up your solder on a board, especially if you're doing both sides. You can just take a brush. I like using a toothbrush better. And put some alcohol on it and just scrub it. Just don't do it hard, just scrub it. It cleans up the joints really good. Sometimes you need to do that to be able to see them better. So that's that. My solder away. Let's put this thing together. Have to do this again. Get my glasses on. I don't know why I shut the gun off. There we go. Doing the one farthest from me. Work my way down. Clean my tip. Shut the gun off. We're ready to go. That's how it looked like. Nice big blobs they had on there. Nice and shiny. I'm gonna look between them, make sure I didn't spill any solder. That actually looks better than what they had. take it out of my vise. That was a joke. Charging up now, it's flashing blue. You can hardly see it. That's that. Thanks for joining me.